a mindfulness of death meditation tonight, and you can lie down or sit up. It just so happened that the slogan tonight has a similar theme, or it kind of ties in with Halloween, Day of the Dead, this time of year. So sometimes it happens like that with these slogans. You know, I think I mentioned this once that a few years ago I was running through the slogans, you know, one every week against the stream. The slogan that went, "Be grateful to everyone," just so happened to fall on Thanksgiving. So it was neat that this one also. It's in my pocket. You'll see why. Okay. Well, let's go ahead and drop in, close our eyes, and then we'll do the chant. There you have the Śaraṇāgata dīnārtha. We'll do that 3 times tonight. So first, let's close our eyes and settle in for a few moments. It's a nice habit to get into, to just first thing when you're sitting or settling into prayer, to check in, feel how you feel in this moment for your technique or needing to change anything. And instead, just check in. How's the internal weather report? One way to share in a group, we haven't done this before, but from this space, actually, it can be nice to popcorn share a word or 2 or 3 of how you're feeling right now in this moment, as a way to help us train to really land on maybe some clarity. So I can start, and then please kind of popcorn style, meaning popping in any order if you feel called. You know, and speak loud enough so the whole room can hear you. A word or 2 or 3 about how you're feeling right now. There's no right or wrong answer. I'll start. Raw and grateful.
Exhausted and curious.
Spacious and anticipatory. Sore and weary.
Present and open. Good.
Just 1 or 2 words of how you're feeling right now in this moment. Okay, so now we'll do the Śaraṇāgata dīnārtha, the prayer at the top of your handout, 3 times. The first time will be like a, run through, and we'll do 1 line, and then you can repeat, and so on. Then we'll do 3 full times. Śaraṇāgata dīnārtha, Śaraṇāgata dīnārtha, paritrāṇa parāyaṇe, paritrāṇa parāyaṇe, Sarvasyārti hare Devi, Sarvasyārti hare Devi, Nārāyaṇi namostute, Nārāyaṇi namostute. Together. Śaraṇāgata dīnārtha, paritrāṇa parāyaṇe, Sarvasyārti hare Devi, Nārāyaṇi namostute. Śaraṇāgata dīnārtha, paritrāṇa parāyaṇe, Sarvasyārti hare Devi, Nārāyaṇi namostute. Śaraṇāgata dīnārtha, paritrāṇa parāyaṇe, Sarvasyārti hare Devi, Nārāyaṇi namostute. Thank you. So tonight we're going to do things a little differently. I'm going to talk first and then we'll practice. Okay, because I want to set you up. I want to set the room up and the foundation for the death meditation. You can't just go in the deep end with that stuff sometimes. Where are my glasses? Oh, 2 cases. So, death, contemplating death might seem really morbid, but it actually can bring about a vitality and an appreciation of life. It's very common. The Buddha taught it for his monks and nuns as a way to help them get inspired to practice. It's easy to get lazy with practice and think, I'll put it off. I'll just put it off till tomorrow. I'll sleep in or whatever we tell ourselves. But if we think, today might be my last, why don't I put it to good use? How can I do that? Well, meditating and preparing for death through letting go, mindfulness, letting go of this physical form as your soul identity and resting in your luminous true nature. It's a great insurance policy for the bardo, the intermediary state. So it's called Maranasati. Maranasati. Sati is mindfulness. Marana is death. It's connected with Mara, the so-called devil or evil one. But Maranasati. So again, just know that, this is a safe space. It's a brave space. And if you don't feel that you want to do the whole meditation, you can always just sort of choose to focus on your breath and just, back out for a little bit. But I think that you'll find it digestible and edgy, but also held in a really nice way. But we'll get to that towards the end. We'll turn out the lights. Help me remember because I might forget. We'll turn out the lights. We have the candles. You can lie back at the time of meditation, or you can sit upright. You can choose. So as you know, we're going through these mind-straining slogans. It's very strenuous. But no, mind training, Lojong, that's what mind training means. Lo means mind or intellect, like buddhi in Sanskrit. Jong means to train or to purify. So these are one-liner kind of koans or slogans that help us contemplate and integrate Dharma into our lives. And so we're on the 18th. You can jump in anytime. How many people are here for the first time tonight? There's a lot of you. Holy cow. A lot of you look familiar. You look familiar.
I've been here for other things.
For other things, yeah.
Yes.
Did you just raise your hand too? Yeah, you look familiar to me too. Maybe we've seen each other in other places. Yeah.
Life.
Singing, right.
That was for your feeding.
Berkeley. Yeah, feeding your demons. That's right, cool. And you guys, have you been to other Olympic stuff, but you just haven't been to this class? Is this your first time to the Olympic? Oh, cool. Welcome. It's a great spot. I think a lot of us who've been around for a while, we used to come here back when it was Seventh Heaven. Did you come here with Seventh Heaven? Yeah, take yoga classes. I used to do Ashtanga classes in that little square room over there with fans. How many people study with fans? It's a good Ashtanga teacher. I don't do that. I don't do that anymore. It's good stuff though. All right, so welcome everybody. That's what's cool about these Lojong mind training slogans is you can jump in or you can do them sequentially. So I say the 18th because it's called the 18th, but it doesn't mean you're late or, oops, came into the wrong class, So who would like to read slogan 18 out loud with a nice, confident voice? Go ahead, popcorn. Number 18.
The Mahayana instruction for rejection of consciousness at death is a 5 strength, how you conduct yourself as a born.
Yeah, thank you. So this is a big one. And remember in the last class, we started this, it's the 4th point or the 4th chapter. And the slogan we did last week, number 17, can somebody read that? Somebody else?
Practice the 5 strengths, the condensed heart instructions.
Right, so that was introducing us to the practice of these 5 powers or 5 strengths. And they're applied to both the living practice of the lifespan, but also then the dying process of the bardo of dying, that span. So we will talk about these 5 strengths or 5 powers in terms of death tonight. And then we'll do a death meditation. Pretty cool for Halloween, though. It just happened. I did not make this happen. It's just happening. Okay, so the 5 powers, you may remember them from last week if you were here. The first is seeds of virtue, so practicing virtue. I'll summarize that in a moment, but I'll list these 5 now so you see where we're going. The second is prayer or aspiration. The third is reproach or repulsion, meaning turning away from things that harm us. The 4th is determination, fortitude. The 5th is familiarization, which is meditation, right? Bhavana or Gompa, Tibetan. So let's look at these in terms of the theme of death. Seeds of virtue. As we're, say we're nearing the end of our life, or maybe we've been diagnosed with a terminal illness. We're all going to die. We just don't know when. That's the only certainty, they say, is the uncertainty of the time of death. So we really don't know, no matter what age we are, how our health is. So practice becomes imperative if we're diagnosed with something and we know we're going to die, but even if we don't know when and how we'll die. So we must practice these 5 powers. So these seeds of virtue in particular means, in this context, in relationship to death, it means to start. Now, just imagine you're nearing the end of your life, you know you're going to pass, but we can even start to do this now. You know, it's been in the news a lot with this Swedish death practice. Basically, that's what this is talking about, is start to let go of your shit now. Start to go through it and give it away. Start to give away your possessions, the things that you don't need, you know. So a lot of stuff you may have that you might not need. Maybe you can start to give it away to people who do need it. And they say that this virtuous seed, you know, these seeds of virtue is that generous impulse to give away without a trace of attachment or regret or concern. So this practice is very kind of, you could say, ascetic in a way, and giving away material possessions. There's an old saying that says, everything you're attached to, you will lose in the face of death. So then they get really specific here, like, okay, how could we do this in a Buddhist world? You know, this is all Buddhist context stuff. Or in a lot of spiritual traditions, they have practices like giving things to the Sangha, donating to the temples, to the monasteries. We could give, I'm just adding this, we could give to homeless shelters or old folks' homes. We can donate things that we don't need to folks who may need them. We could get creative with that. This broader feeling of community, of Sangha, starting to give to them. And then also starting to give to teachers, so giving whatever they might need to continue their Dharma activity. And then, of course, giving wherever you feel would be most helpful. And the idea is to really die without fear, without regret. In terms of this giving or letting go, it can also be understood as in terms of letting go of our attachment to our dear ones. As that's really going to be the hardest thing. I mean, when I think about dying, the thing that scares me the most is saying goodbye to my children. You know, I don't want to do that. I don't want to say goodbye to my children. I think we all could say that that's maybe the hardest thing to think of letting go of. Not my car or my house, or my cat's a little sad, but not as sad as my kids, you know. So even that we will be asked to let go of. We don't really have a choice. So coming to a place where we're willing to let go, even those things that we hold most dear, even if it's in contemplation, not literally doing it, but readying ourselves to feel what it's like to be ready for letting go. And ultimately, the final let go is letting go of the body, our attachment to our body. And then the second is aspiration or prayer. So in light of this bardo of dying, this bardo means intermediary state. I'll go a little bit more deeper into that in a minute here. It's really cool stuff. But in terms of this preparing for or moving through the phases of dying, they say in this Tibetan Buddhist tradition that we should make enlightenment the single focus of aspiration by practicing and aspiring to never be separate from bodhicitta. Never be separate from bodhicitta. What does bodhicitta mean? The regulars.
The awakened heart.
The awakened heart. The compassionate heart, but the awakened heart. Very good. It's that loving heart, that feeling of connection and being of service in the world. So that is the heartbeat of these slogans, is bodhicitta. If anybody asks you, what are those slogans about? In a nutshell, it's about how to cultivate bodhicitta, and maintain it, and live and die with that as your central axis, the center of your mandala, of your life, of your constellation. So you aspire to never be separate from. It's like never get cut off from that heart of wanting to be of benefit. I think a lot of us are feeling so tenderized right now about all the suffering in the world, all the way around, but particularly in Gaza and Israel, and then the ripples of that is just so heartbreaking. So that's when we witness that, it brings us to that bodhicitta, that sadness, that that a sense of brotherhood, sisterhood. God, what would that be like if that was my family? I wouldn't wish that on anybody, So it's that feeling of connection and that tender heart. They say the bodhicitta is the heart that quivers in the face of suffering. How many people have really been feeling that lately, in particular? Jeez. So this aspiration, this prayer to never be separate from bodhicitta in this life and in our next life and in our next. Basically, never be separate from it. And also in the bardo, between this life and the next. Because it's said that in the bardo, all sorts of visions appear to us. And we can get lost and terrified or forget our true nature. Just go to the light. When in doubt, go to the light. So let's talk about this. Well, first, a beautiful quote from Milarepa, the great yogi saint of Tibet from the 12th century, 11th and 12th century. He said something that I love. He said, "The aim of my practice is to die without regret." The aim of my practice is to die without regret. So they say, as we're facing the time for ourselves to let go of this body, to move on, we can pray to dissolve these misdeeds, maybe, with whatever and however you do that, letting go, apologizing, making right, confessing, or just praying, may I dissolve or purify any misdeeds I may have knowingly or unknowingly done in my life and in my past lives. And then also they say to take refuge. That's a daily prayer for Buddhists. They take refuge in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. The historical figure who taught Buddha Dhamma, Buddha Shakyamuni, the Dharma, which is his teachings on liberation and truth, alignment with reality, basically. He didn't mean to start a religion, by the way. He didn't call it Buddhism. We call it Buddhism. He didn't even want his likeness. The story goes that one of his students kept asking him, as he was getting older, what are we going to do when you die? How will we remember your teachings? And how can we show devotion to you? We're going to miss you. And he'd say, you'll just remember me in your heart, bring the teachings alive through your practice, your deeds, your kindness. But that wasn't enough for them. Come on, can we paint you? Can we create an image that will help us remember your likeness? And after some time, he said, okay, you can do that. What I'll do is I'll sit on the edge of a pond, and you can paint a reflection of me in the pond. For some reason, he didn't want a literal representation of himself. Such an interesting story. And he never meant to create a religion. So think of it, but the Dharma literally means reality. Dharma in Sanskrit means truth, or Dhamma in Pali means truth, phenomena. It means righteousness, justice. It also means justice. Yeah, what's your dharma? It's used in the Vedas, in the Hindu tradition, a bit more like that. Like, what's your calling? What's your calling? How can you live a just life? It's cool. In Buddhism, they don't use that word. They don't use dharma so much in that way. But it's a beautiful way to think of it. What's your dharma? What's your dharma? What's your dharma? And then now we get to this bardo teaching. Bardo is a Tibetan word. I don't know the Sanskrit word for bardo. Does anybody know? Gosh, I'll look that up. Bardo literally means the intermediary state, the space in between. Bar is a word. This B-A-R means in between. Do makes it a noun. So the in-between place. And it's mostly used in reference to the time between one life and the next. But over time, it also became known as many different in-between places in our life, like the space in between the exhale and the inhale, the space in between the one thought and the next. In terms of a person's experience in samsara, there are generally said to be 6 bardos, meaning the bardo of birth, meaning this life. Bardo that spans the whole time of your life is one bardo. But during that time, you have these other bardos that can happen. The bardo of dreams, the bardo of meditation, the bardo of dying, the bardo of dharmata, the bardo of suchness. It's that moment of clear light realization when the consciousness is leaving the body and you have this opportunity to realize the clear light nature of mind. So that's called the bardo of dharmata. And then the 6th is the bardo of becoming. That's the bardo of coming into the next. Yeah, right. Basically, it's like when you're looking around, you're up there floating in the sky with the stars, and you're like, oh, that looks like a cool couple. I want them to be my mom and my dad. And then whoosh, you take lodging in the womb. It's pretty cool stuff. Okay, so I want to read this passage that goes deeper into the meaning of bardo. And I want to introduce you to this book. It's one of my favorite Dharma books. It's called Luminous Emptiness, Understanding the Tibetan Book of the Dead by Francesca Fremantle. It is fabulous. If you're into this type of stuff, I highly recommend it. Luminous Emptiness. She's a wonderful scholar, translator who worked very closely with Chogyam Trungpa, one of the early Tibetan teachers in the 70s and 80s. This is from page 54 and 55. Okay, she says the bardo can have many implications. Depending on how one looks at it, it is an interval, a hiatus, a gap. It can act as a boundary that divides and separates, marking the end of one thing and the beginning of another. But it can also be a link between the two. It can serve as a bridge or a meeting place that brings together and unites. It is a crossing, a stepping stone, a transition. It is a crossroads where one must choose which path to take. And it is a no man's land, belonging to neither one side nor the other. It is a highlight or a peak point of experience, and at the same time, a situation of extreme tension caught between two opposites. It is an open space filled with an atmosphere of suspension and uncertainty, neither this nor that. In such a state, one may feel confused and frightened, or one may feel surprisingly liberated and open to new possibilities where anything might happen. Bardo. And Trungpa, she goes on to say, he spoke of them as periods of uncertainty between sanity and insanity, or between the confusion of samsara and the transformation of that confusion into wisdom. He said they are the heightened qualities of different types of ego and the possibility of getting off ego. meaning getting free of it. He says that's where Bardo starts. The peak experience in which there is the possibility of losing the grip of ego and the possibility of being swallowed up in it. He's so cool. He was wild and problematic, but alcoholic. He was quite wild. But he was brilliant. And this idea of Bardo is that peak experience in which there is the possibility of losing the grip of ego. And that's not negative, that's good. That means actually the grip of ego starts to loosen around you. This idea of you starts to dissolve, and you have that experience of unity, of consciousness, of liberation from the suffering self that's somehow convinced that it has to be tight, and justified to survive this ocean of samsara. But then when you lose the grip of ego, you actually dissolve into that ocean of samsara to become, you're like, oh, I'm a fish, no problem. But he says the other side of it is being swallowed up in it, meaning you get lost in it and you're swallowed. You believe the lie that you are your ego, you are the ego, and then you're swallowed. So you can either get liberated from it or be devoured, eaten alive by it. So don't lose the battle. Oh, this goes on and on. Believe me, it was hard to be like, okay, I'll just stop there. Bardo. So moving on, and then we're going to come back to this death meditation. But these last couple points in terms of framing them in the context of death, this idea of repulsion, or sometimes called abhorrence, which I would be like, I don't know, what are you talking about? But really, it's talking about understanding that this clinging on to the self. It's kind of like it's like getting an allergy to self-clinging. That's kind of a better way. That's how I like to frame it. Like, ew, I'm not going to eat garlic because it's not good for me. I feel repulsed by it. I wish I could eat it. I like it, it just doesn't like me, right? So it could be like ego fixation, ego clinging could be like garlic for me. Like, oh, I feel it coming. No. Or I don't know, who has an allergy to something funny like a food or a cat or something? It's like self-clinging. You could think of repulsion as like an allergy to it, rather than like, ew, I'm going to put my nose up, I'm repulsed by you. It's more like not going there. That's the vibe that I think they're getting at here. So understanding, the twofold emptiness. That self is empty of intrinsic existence. And then all phenomena, they appear, but they're empty of solidity. They're empty of a separate, independently existing selfhood. That's what the Buddha taught. And recognizing that self-clinging that we have an allergy to now, right? You're going to walk out of here with a new allergy to the self-clinging. And that it's that self-clinging that is the source of our suffering. Check that out for yourself. As you're going about your day and maybe you notice you're suffering about something, and really ask, check in on yourself, as one Tibetan teacher would say. It's like from time to time, do a little checkup. Like, be honest with yourself. Why am I having such a hard time with that dynamic? Oh, because I really wanted to be right. But do I have to be right to be loved? No, like really ask yourself, what's causing the suffering, and see, is it true, this teaching, that self-clinging is the source of suffering? And particularly in context of death and dying, grasping onto the body also perpetuates the cycle of birth, aging, sickness, and death. The body is who we really are. Then this grasping and desire and clinging and reification of ourself as the body, it just keeps us in the cycle of birth and death, samsara. But if we can learn to let go, even while we're healthy and vibrant, death can be liberating. Contemplating death can be liberating because we're practicing letting go, and letting go can be very liberating. So death as liberation, not as a curse or as a tragedy. I think maybe you've known someone who's passed. Maybe they were suffering, and finally they passed, transitioned, and there's a sense of this feeling like, they're liberated from that. It's actually not such a bad thing to let go of this body when it's time. And see that this clinging onto the self, that when we release this clinging, then we can start to move towards that liberation at the time of death. Okay, so then the fourth, determination or resolve. This is the fourth power. So strong determination to never be without bodhicitta. That's one of the aspects of this, to have a very strong resolve that no matter what. I mean, the Tibetans talk about this in terms of the worst possible situation. Like if someone's torturing you, can you maintain bodhicitta? I can't remember which teacher this was. It might have been, maybe it was somebody Tulku Sangha Rinpoche knew. It was a teacher that I studied with, I think, told the story of his mentor in a prison camp in Tibet during the 60s and 70s, I believe. He was a Tulku, and when the Chinese Communist government came in and started to invade Tibet and take over, they focused on the Tulkus, the reincarnated lamas, the high lamas, and they imprisoned them in particular because they were like the leaders. They were the spiritual leaders. So the Chinese Communist government, I'm not saying all Chinese, I'm saying the Communist government at the time thought that would be a good method of dampening the spirit of the Tibetan people. So Tulku Sangha Rinpoche, one of my teachers, was put into prison at a very young age. I think he was around 10. And he was put in this ward with the other Tulkus, which was actually, he said, a blessing, because he was put in this confined space with some very amazing, beautiful, wise souls. And one of them became his mentor. And I believe that he asked him, what is the hardest thing for you in this prison? Because he had been in there, the older man had been in there for quite a while. And he said, the hardest thing for me has been almost losing my bodhicitta while I'm being tortured. But I didn't lose it for my torturer. I never lost it, but I almost did. So the stakes, are high at some times in our life, in certain situations. So this prayer, this resolve, this determination to never be without bodhicitta, particularly the twofold bodhicitta of compassion and wisdom. That's the twofold bodhicitta. Relative bodhicitta is that compassionate, awakened heart. The compassionate heart. Ultimate bodhicitta is wisdom. What kind of wisdom? The wisdom that understands emptiness, right? It sees into the true nature of reality. That's wisdom in Buddhism. Okay, last one, familiarization, meditation. So again, bringing to mind these twofold bodhicittas of wisdom and compassion. Love and understanding is another way of putting those two. With mindfulness, with consistency, with familiarization. And then also familiarizing yourself with this prayer of the Donglen, of recognizing that others suffer just like we do, and just like us, they wish to be free of suffering. I think we can think of this a lot when we're seeing the news, is There's so much suffering, and to feel compassionate for those who are the victims receiving the abuse, and also for those who are perpetuating abuse, because they say that it's those perpetuators who are going to reap the karmic fruit of the seeds that they sow. So the Tibetans would say things like, oh, ninje, which means, oh, compassion, meaning compassion for beings who don't know what they're doing. They don't know that they're actually setting themselves up for future suffering. So in these teachings, we don't just have compassion for the victims, we have compassion for everybody, people we know and don't know, and for the so-called enemies. And we start to view our so-called enemies as, they say, this is not me making this up, they say in the Lojong mind training teachings, to see your enemies, hold them even more dear than the Buddha, because they teach you patience, perseverance, compassion, understanding. Okay. One more thing and then we're going to meditate. Page 64 of the same book, where she goes into a bit more of a summary of the bardo of dying in particular, which is our theme tonight. 64. The root text of the Bardo Tudrol, the Tibetan Book of Dying, says, and this is a book that you're supposed to read to your loved one, a family member who's dying. Like you're whispering this into their ear while they're in their last phases of breath and dying. There are recordings. You can actually get recordings, or you can get the book and literally read this to your loved one. I did that with my ex-mother-in-law when she was passing away. We would take turns reading this book to her. She wasn't conscious, but we felt that somewhere she could hear. Yeah. So here is the stanza on the Bardo of Dying. It says, now when the Bardo of Dying is dawning upon me. So you're encouraging them to contemplate this. Now when the Bardo of Dying is dawning upon me, I will abandon grasping, attachment in the all-desiring mind. Enter, undistracted, the clear essence of the instructions, and transfer into the space of unborn self-awareness. As I leave this conditioned body of flesh and blood, I will know it to be a transitory illusion. And then she expands, she says, even when the ordinary coarse and subtle elements have dissolved, meaning that as we start to die, the 5 elements of earth, water, fire, air, and space start to break down as the body can't hold it anymore, can't hold consciousness anymore. The 5 elements that make up our physical world and our body start to die too. And so the dying person has all these hallucinatory experiences. Like when the earth element starts to die, you feel heavy, stuck, immobile, like clay. Then when the earth element starts to dissolve into the water element, you feel liquid and ungrounded and unhinged. And if you're still somewhat conscious, they say the vision becomes watery and blurry. So the senses are also tied in with the elements, and so on. It's very cool. But she says then, so this ordinary, coarse, and subtle elements of those 5 elements have dissolved. When they have dissolved, there's a subtle grasping that continues, the mind. And so the continuity of the mind stream, it's called, this continuity of the mind stream is kept going on a very subtle level, along with its associated karma. So you can't just leave the karma baggage behind. It's kind of sticky like glue, and it goes with you in your mind stream. It is said that at the final moment of the dissolution process, the luminosity of death appears to all sentient beings, whether you're an ant or a human. All beings who are sentient have this Buddha nature, this potential. And just before that moment of luminosity, we experience the peak point of this bardo. Remember what Chogyam Trungpa said about the peak experience? We experience the peak point of this bardo, where we are caught between the desire for continued existence and the fear of annihilation. We're caught in that bardo of that, the in-between. And just before, she says, to the ego, there seems to be nothing besides these two alternatives: continued existence or annihilation. It's dualistic. We think there's only those two options. We are imprisoned by the logic of either existence or non-existence, since we have no experience of a state that transcends them both. That's Prajnaparamita. That's the Heart Sutra, by the way. The confusion of most living beings is too great to face such an inconceivable dilemma, and they simply black out into unconsciousness. They don't recognize that, they don't transcend that duality and recognize the clear light of mind and go towards the light. They black out, and that's when they have all sorts of visions. And so there are instructions on how to practice in the bardo, what color lights to move towards, what visions to, basically you just see all visions as illusory. You don't believe in the goblins and the monsters coming to eat you. Just be like, oh, haha, I see you. That's why dream yoga is important, right? We get lucid in the dream, then we can get lucid during death, because it's the same kind of experience. And we could have a whole class on this book. I did. Another teacher and I teamed up and we did a book study group. It's been fun to crack this back open. This is a really cool book. It's deep stuff. So now you get to prepare for the bardo. Okay? You ready? Remember, you go only where where you feel good to go. You don't need to do everything. But at the same time, think of this like a vision. You could say vision quest or a thought experiment. You're just dipping your big toe in. How would it feel to contemplate and prepare myself for death? And I trust that you'll know what's appropriate for you, okay? But I think you'll find it's a good one. So you can decide if you want to stay sitting up or you can lie down. There are blankets. Are there blankets? Yeah, there are blankets over here. Take a moment here to set yourself up, okay? It would take like a minute or two. If you want a blanket, another pillow, another zabuton. We have lots of stuff. How's the temperature in here? Are we warm enough? Yeah? Okay. Yeah, I think we're fine. Any questions or comments while we're getting settled in? Yeah, let's let people have, we'll let people have some light while they're settling in, and then we'll turn it off. There's actually been studies that show, recent studies, I could cite them for you if you want after class, that show that actually coming to terms with death is essential to living life fully. But then, in the Western world, a lot of us are taught to turn away from that, socialized to avoid discussing it, So a lot of us don't even really want to think about death. So a lot of us might even suffer at the end of life because there's a thing called death anxiety, so this can help counteract that. Yeah, I think we're ready. Yeah? Good, thank you. There we go. Good. Yeah, so let yourself settle in and make sure you're comfortable. And really take a moment to assess your readiness to do this maranasati, this mindfulness of death practice. You can approach it fully, or you can do it in a more cursory way. Some kind of moment of checking in. Am I ready? We're not going to be ruminating on morbid aspects of the dying process. That's not what this is about. It's more about a process of learning to let go of grasping onto the ego as yourself. And then recognizing that endings are part of everyday life, so being able to have a maturity around that, it can be very helpful. This is a guided meditation on dying by Stephen Levine, who was a hospice and Buddhist educator and writer. Allow your eyes to close. If you're in a chair, if you can, have your feet nice and square on the floor. Make sure you're comfortable. And bring your attention to the level of sensations in your body. As you breathe, feel this body that you're sitting in or lying in. And let the body be still. And focus on the sensations of simply being in this body. Being in a body. Maybe you feel the beating of your heart or the pumping of the blood, tingling, or sensations of movement or stuckness, warmth, coldness. And notice the body's substantial quality, that earth element, the bones, the flesh. You feel your body against the floor or the seat. A quality of stability, substantial, firm. And then also feel the body's weightlessness. Maybe areas of lightness or space. If you're seated, you might feel the weight of your head resting on the neck, or if you're lying, the head resting against the support of the floor. And feeling the musculature of the neck, its strength, its thickness. Feel the long bones of the shoulders and the thick bony sockets that support the weight of the arms. And feel the heaviness of the arms as they rest on either side of the body. Feel these heavy hands. And feel the torso, its thickness, its weightiness, the earthen quality of this body. Feel this heavy body in which you live. Notice the solidity, the density, the earth element of this dense body. Notice the feet on the floor, the heaviness, or the heels if you're lying down, the weightiness of the legs, the shins, the heels. Notice gravity's action on this earthen body. And in this solid body, sensations arise, tingling, hot and cold, rough and smooth, soft and hard. Sensations arising in the body. Recognize this flickering field of sensation. Not grasping at sensation. Just allow these sensations to be received as they arise in this body we inhabit. Open to the sensations in the legs, their density and heaviness, and feel the solidness of this body. Explore this container of the life force. And explore the life force as sensation arising and passing away. And as you note these sensations, notice how, though they arise in the heavy body, they seem to be received by something subtler within. Something lighter within this heavier form. Within this heavy body is a body of awareness, a light body, which experiences hearing, seeing, tasting, touching, smelling, received through the outer body. Feel the body of awareness, this inner body, this light body, perfectly nestled within the heavier form, receiving experience, experiencing. A body of awareness that experiences all that enters through the senses. It recognizes sound as hearing. It delights in music. It experiences images as seeing and recognizes great beauty. It experiences food as taste. It knows it is alive. Enter this light body of awareness. Observe how each breath drawn in through the nostrils of the heavy body is experienced as sensation by the light body, by the awareness within. And notice how each breath connects to the heavy body with the light body within. Each breath allowing life, awareness, to remain in the earthen vessel. Observe the light body receiving the heavy body. And feel how each breath sustains the light body balanced perfectly within. And breathe the connection between the outer body and the inner body, drawn in as air, received as sensation. Each breath is so precious. Each breath maintaining the connection, allowing life to remain in the body. And feel how the breath connects the solid body with the light body. Experience each breath. Just awareness and sensation. Each breath. Experience this delicate balance, moment to moment, as sensation, as awareness itself. And take each breath as though it were the last. Experience each inhalation as though it were never to be followed by another. Each breath the last. The last breath of incarnation. Let the breath come and let the breath go. The last breath of life, leaving the heavy body behind. Each breath ending, the connection severed between the heavy body and the light body. And the end of a lifetime. The final breath. Each breath the last. Let go. Don't hold on to it. Let each breath go. Finally and forever. Don't even be attached to the next breath. As the last breath leaves, go with it. And don't hold on. Let yourself die. Let the light body float free now. Let yourself die. Let go now. Gently, gently, let it all go. Let it all float free and let yourself die. Leave the body behind and follow the light into luminous space and go into it. Let yourself die into space. Each breath vanishes, each thought dissolving into space. Don't hold now. Just let go once and for all. Let go of fear. Let go of longing. Open to the wonder. Let yourself die. And open into death. Nothing to hold on to. That is all past. Die gently into this moment. Let go of your name. Let go of your face. Let go of your reputation. Float free into the vastness. And leave the body behind. And moving into the vast space of being. Light dissolving into light. Just vast, luminous space. Let go now. And have mercy on you. Let yourself float free, merging with space. The space dissolving into space. Light dissolving into light. Vast, boundaryless space. Such enormous peace. Dissolving, dissolving, dissolving. Edges melting. Vast luminous space dissolving into space. Shimmering clouds dissolving at the edge. Clouds dissolving in space. Dissipating, dissolving, merging in space. And let go into that spaciousness. Hold nowhere. Let your heart merge in your own great fire. Dissolving, radiating into space, merging with light. This vast luminosity is all that you ever sought. Dissolving into the great heart. and floating free in this vast space. And let go of your knowing, and let go of your not knowing. All that comes to mind is old. Any thought is just old thought. Nothing to hold to. Just the simple fact of dying and the fact of the clear light. Just the light entering light. No inside, no outside. Just beingness. Edgeless being and endless space. And dissolve into it. Floating free of the body, free of the mind. Merging in boundaryless space. And from across vast space, notice now something gently approaching. It is the first breath of life. Watch the breath approaching as if from far away. Experiencing it entering the body. Each breath, the first. Each exhalation, the first breath, released. Each inhalation, the first breath of life, completely new. Each breath bringing us back into the body. Taking birth again to serve and be served, to learn, to teach, to care and be cared for. Awareness once again entering the body as consciousness. Pure awareness re-inhabiting pure form, birth. Born again into the body. Each breath the first. Born again to bring mercy and healing to the injured world. Taking birth for the benefit of all sentient beings. Taking birth to heal. The light body, once again reanimating the heavy body. Each breath connecting and maintaining the light body within its momentary vehicle. And once again, the light clothes itself in form so as to act and to complete whatever healing remains. born to bring peace, to bring kindness, to bring healing to our pain and the pain of all sentient beings. And born to learn, to be. Each breath is so precious, allowing us to stay a moment longer. Allowing us the healing we took birth for. Born to take the teaching, to bring compassion. And may all beings coming and going know the peace of their own great nature. May all beings be free of suffering. May they be free of the causes of suffering. And may they have happiness in the causes of happiness. And may they experience the great peace that is beyond joy and sorrow. And if you're lying down, begin to find your way back up. You can go slowly, please. Hug your knees into your chest and then roll over to your side. That's a nice, safe way to come up from lying position for your back. And we'll end with some chanting of a mantra as a continued sort of heart prayer for peace and liberation from suffering in these times of great need. The mantra is Om Mani Padme Hum. Om, jewel in the heart of the lotus. Hum, enlightened mind. It's the mantra of Avalokiteshvara, the Buddha of compassion, Bodhisattva of compassion. You can feel your heart blooming as you chant and protective light radiating in all directions if that feels good to you, bringing protection and peace and safety, whatever people need, liberation. Om Mani Padme Hum, 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 Om Mani Padme Hum. 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 Thank you, everybody. Welcome to your new life. You've been reborn. Slowly, bring the lights. We're going to bring the lights on. Slowly. How was that for you? Were you okay dying? How was dying? You lived to tell. You had a near-death experience. Perfect. Thank you for your nonviolent light. Turning on. Anybody want to share? Don't be shy. It's a quiet group tonight. That's okay. But if somebody wants to share something or ask a question, now's your time. Yes, say your name and then.
My name is Jordan.
Hi, Jordan.
I really enjoyed the experience. I really enjoyed the rebirth moment.
Hmm.
It was felt like really joyful for me to have that. It was like really fun. I was kind of like giving myself little words and phrases, and I was like, this is my first breath.
Mm.
I was like really exciting to where I almost like had to control it or a little bit.
Mm. Oh. That's sweet. Such a gift. Thank you for sharing. Yeah, like childlike, yeah. Baby-like. Babies are like Buddhas, aren't they? You spend some time with babies. They give you darshan sometimes because they're so lit up. They're just fresh from that experience. They're like Jordan is right now. Anyone else? You ready to go trick or treat? God, no. Oh, there's the light. I was trying to see the time and I just discovered there's a button.
Go towards it.
What?
I said go
Towards it. Good one. Yeah, sometimes we stumble into it and we're lucky. Oops. Stumbling towards ecstasy, yeah.
I have a question about
Yeah, say your name and then the question.
Renee.
Renee.
My mind was a little bit caught on the word repulsion.
Yeah, you're repulsed by repulsion.
Well, no, actually.
Uh-huh.
It's just a signal of something to me, right, that to pay attention to.
Yeah.
But I guess the part I was a little confused about is, in this context, is it thought of as that way, as something to pay attention to? Or is the idea to dissolve the repulsion?
Yeah, it's actually using the repulsion to turn you towards the Dharma. It's kind of like getting grossed out by sex, drugs, and rock and roll. Like you get to a certain point where you're like, yeah, I'm not going to go out and snort coke anymore. I feel like shit the next morning. I'm kind of repulsed by that, because I want to have my meditation practice in the morning. So it's like using that repulsion or that allergy, that feeling of like, to help you turn towards something that's more beneficial for you.
That's what I thought, but I wasn't totally sure.
Yeah. I'm glad you clarified. Yeah, maybe I wasn't clear. Yeah, and you can pay attention to it too. Sometimes we hear something that's kind of like, no, I don't quite get it. So pay attention to those things and see where they show up in your life. So the answer could be yes anyway. But I think you understand. Repulsion. Yeah, it's interesting. There's another word. I didn't look.
It's such a strong word, I think, is what it is.
I know,
right?
and abhorrences too. But
aversion.
Aversion.
More like the word, I think, where it's like when you. I guess my feeling is if I don't listen to aversion, it turns into repulsion.
Uh-huh. Yeah, yeah.
I didn't listen when it was a little voice, so now it's a big.
Now it's a big voice. Yeah, because they're not the same words in the root languages. They're nuanced, just like ours are. But there's another word that's interesting, which is renunciation, which sort of has the same flavor of like we're renouncing the stuff that drags us down into hell or into samsara or to negative states, suffering. And often it's used within the context of the monastics. So we renounce desire, they renounce intoxicants and sex and all of that. But one of my mentors, Alan Wallace, who is an excellent translator, he said that the actual etymology for the word renunciation is to have a spirit of emergence, like to have this pull to emerge out of the muck of samsara. Like there's that imagery of the lotus flower can grow out of the muck and be so pure and beautiful. So it's like that, the word is utpala, is that upward thrust, is the lotus flower. Utpala, I learned that when I was writing my book. And it's such a cool word, is that upward thrust, that spirit of emerging out of the muck that holds us down. And that's so much more inspiring than renunciation or repulsion. When I was thinking about repulsion tonight before class, I was remembering that wonderful teaching on renunciation too, is actually that feeling of emerging out of the old suffering tendencies and into something greater.
No, I don't think there's any relation, but my name is Renee and it means rebirth.
Yeah, I know.
But I was just wondering, hit me as like R-E-N, renunciate. I wonder if there's some etymology relationship with that.
Yeah, I don't know that. The nuns, the nuns part. Yeah. It's fun to study words. Remember that quote from last week? Don't study the words, study the meaning behind the words. You liked that quote, I think, last week, right? So it's like that. It's like learn the etymology so you can know the meaning behind the words. And it's a much more richer level of understanding you can have when you study the meaning behind the words. Well, thank you. Yeah, I had a good friend named Renee Rabash. Her mother was French, and she said, and she was a yogi. She was into Hinduism, and she's like, I don't know why my parents gave me 2 names that meant rebirth. It's like I'm like sentenced to coming back to samsara again and again, because Renee is rebirth, and Rabash, I guess, also means rebirth in a different way. So I never forgot that about the name Renee. Renaissance, right?
That's too funny.
Renee Rabash. It's funny. Beautiful voice. Oh my God, great singer. We used to chant a lot together. She was great. She lives in Santa Fe now. Otherwise, I'd bring her here and we'd sing. Well, then she took a Dharma name, Leela. She got away from the Renee thing. Okay, the Renee Rabash thing was too much for her. I'm not saying I like Renee, it's a good name. Well, my friends, it is time. Time to say goodbye. So I'll be here next week, but I'm going to be out of town. I know this is a crazy time for me, but I got to go down to LA to record my book. I'm doing an audiobook for it. So I'll be gone for that week. And so we're trying to decide what to do. I was talking to Hannah about it. I thought, what do you guys think about like a pure practice time, like a time you ring the bell, somebody could ring the bell, sit, ring the bell to end. You could do a half hour, 45 minutes sit, and then you could have counsel, you could just sit in a circle. And it's really cool to learn from each other too. I know I don't give you a lot of chance to do that type of thing. I do want to do that more, dyads and small group sharing. But anyway, if that's interesting, you can think about it. Hannah said she'd put it out to the community and see if there was interest. Maybe right now, is anybody that you would do that? Would you want to come on the is it the 13th? Yeah. No, the 14th of November, and have a peer circle practice? Maybe, yeah. Some of the regulars could help hold the space. Okay, good. I'll let Hannah know that there's some interest. Yeah, and there'll be an announcement, so you guys will know if it happens or not. Thank you. What's your name? What's your name?
Mine.
Yeah.
Ernesto.
Ernesto, right. Nice to see you. Okay, thanks, Ernesto. Jordan and Megan. Okay. Good night. Take care. Feel free to have tea and mingle, and thank you for helping to set up. And we'll see you next week. We'll be here next week.
I met you as we had masks on.
You helped me with this. I was so lost with that circle singing for this fun.
Oh, did
Right? You did. No, and I'm asking her. What's going on?
I know. How can it's fun? It's unexplainable.
It's,
It's
yeah,
just weird.
Yeah.
You can be like, what's going on? I have no idea.
Yeah, but it put me at ease. You're like,
It's all good.
that was awful. And then Gina and well, her husband, yeah.
Oh, Kyle.
So
Just wise, beautiful person. Yes, he's really special. Yeah, I love him so much. I just wanted to tell you something. It's kind of sad. On theme of death. We were talking about this. She said, she had heard could, or I can't even imagine. But anyway.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I enjoyed the chanting very much.
Did you?
What was the name of that mantra?
It's called it's often called the 6-syllable mantra, but
Yeah.
it's the Avalokiteshvara's heart mantra. They often call it the mani. I'll recite the mani. What's your name?
Neha.
Neha?
Yeah,
That's-
I guess
I'm
you're
happy to do that.
Want to recite all of your future links?
And did you have a
If you
history?
would like
Do you like to chant?
I love to chant. If you would like to. Whichever you would like. What interest you like.
Oh, good. Well,
We would have
and
And if you come back early, we can bring it back with you.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
21 times, 54 times, so we'll work like a meditation.
so, yeah, and sometimes I have friends who take care, so sometimes we really go. But since I started doing these slogans, I've been using them so much more time. It's always been, it takes us into our space and nothing else. Really, you know? Yeah. Did you grow up? You have an Hindu? Did you grow up chanting?
I did, and I just, feel more connected to it now after that recent history
Yeah.
than I did before.
And now it just keeps doing it. Sometimes we need space.
Yeah.
I have a really nice to say that. We grew up with it. Like my friend Nina didn't.
Oh, you met out?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
She said it was with Krishnadas when she fell in love with Jesus. Oh my God. Like Krishnadas in New York. Isn't that funny? Do you know Nina?
Well, I'm very fond of her chanting also. Right.
So do you know that we founded a collective called the 21 Collective?
It's beautiful. I was just looking at your book out in the lobby, and I started to read it, but I was distracted too much. I was like, I need to get this book.
Get the book! Take one of those cards, there's a 30% discount.
Oh, yeah.
There should be cards.
Okay.
You can pre-order it. And then we'll have a book signing here, I'll give a talk, a guided meditation, and we'll do some chant.
That would be beautiful. I look forward to it.
Yes, but then Nina and then Genevieve, who is the violinist, she lost his name. She's a composer too, so the three of us created this 21,000. And we've written melodies for all 21 of us. And we just recorded the first 7. And they're coming up in this wonderful weekend. Producer's mixing them, and she's so she's pretty much done mixing, so we'll start releasing those 7 and the next 7 and the next 7.
Oh, that's beautiful. I just love to
It's like, yeah, it's the fun part of life. You know, it's like the hard work of the book is over. Now, we'll continue doing the one line.
Yeah, it'd be lovely if you can bring that here also, so that
Yes.
we can experience
We
that.
will. Absolutely.
Thank you.
She likes to come to the meeting once a year. Thank you.
Sure.
That's for you. You can put that somewhere. You can have it or put it.
Little guy.
I know, I was
I
so,
love these
I love it
marigolds.
too. Love marigolds. Do you mind if I take a smell?
I love them too. They do have a sweet, earthy smell. They're not flashy.
Yeah. Yeah, there's the earthiness.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's like my favorite. Just take it.
Yeah.
Put it in some water and
Yeah.
shove it in the foam.
Yeah.
And you can also press it, and it will still have the smell.
Oh, really? I
It will
have
still
never
retain,
attempted
miracles
to.
retain their smell as dried
Really?
leaves.
You're so.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. I think you have it.
Yes. How can I help you?
I think I'm supposed to put some of these away. Should we put this back? Oh, I should go turn off the string is still going.
Oh, really?